program working right now. I may have received a letter from Mrs. Piramate. The problem we have is we can't get young people who are participating in that program up to the second floor to use the bathroom facilities. I know there's a handicapped accessible porta pot there, but not the best situation. So if we can get this done as quickly as possible. Do they have a time frame, John, or?
Parts are being ordered as we speak.
Okay.
Just a question, are there stairs?
There are stairs,
Oh.
but these
For handicapped
individuals are in wheelchairs.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah.
I didn't know if there were stairs.
Yeah.
I just wanted to know. Got it.
Okay, can we have roll call, please?
Simpson?
Yes.
McClay?
Yes.
McCarty?
Yes.
DeLucre?
Yes.
Palilla?
Yes.
Kern?
Yes.
Mayor Gunther?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, now I was looking at the reads. Resolution 2014-135 is a liquor license renewal for J.J. Brig LLC. Can we have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
And Lynn, is that correct? These are 2-year renewals now?
Yes,
Okay,
for each of them.
for each of them. Okay, any discussion?
One question. Mike Snyder, you still own these?
Okay, can we have roll call?
Do we have a motion and a second? please?
Yep.
Yep.
I second.
Oh, here, here. Simpson?
Abstain.
McClay?
Yes.
McCarty?
Yes.
DeLucre?
Yes.
Palilla?
Yes.
Kern?
Yes.
Mayor Gunther?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Resolution 2014-136 is liquor license renewal for R&R Brig LLC. We have a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Same question. Mike? Part of this still?
I was going to ask who owns it, though.
Good, a bundle.
Exactly. Could we have roll call, please?
Simpson?
Abstain.
McClay?
Yes.
McCarty?
Yes.
DeLucre?
Abstain.
Palilla?
Yes.
Kern?
Yes.
Mayor Gunther?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, we move to our consent agenda.
Oh, just one thing. Sorry, we still need to do the payment of bills.
Oh, are you ready now?
Yeah, I can. Do you want me to run back and get the
No,
purchase
no,
order?
Johnny explained it was Ed's fault. $200. He forgot to order bolts or something like that, so.
Okay, we had
I'm satisfied with
we've
the
had a
answer.
motion to second already on the bills list.
I need to amend it as well.
Okay.
The bills list. Do I do that now or wait?
Was there a motion?
We had a motion to second. We started discussion, but there was an unanswered question.
If there's an amendment, the amendment should be done now.
Okay?
Okay, series 1, 2. I have a series of 6 of the checks. They're 8805, 8801, 8874, 8795, 8803, 8796, that all need to be removed from the bill list at this point. There are reimbursements out of our recreation account for the various organizations, softball, bocce, Young at Heart Club, Senior Citizens, the Rowing Club, and the Soccer Association. We have them on the bill list in anticipation, I guess, of getting the supporting documentation. Sierra still did not have the supporting documentation as of this morning. We hope to have it by the next council meeting.
Okay.
They're reimbursements.
Right. All right, so we have an amendment, so we can move forward on that.
You have an amendment to remove those items, so you should have to take a vote on the amendment to remove.
Okay. Need a motion and a second on the amendment?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on the amendment? Okay, seeing none, could we have roll call, please?
Simpson?
Yes.
McClay?
No. I'm sorry, yes.
McCarty?
Yes.
Yes.
DeLucre?
Yes.
Palilla?
Yes.
Kern?
Yes.
Mayor Gunther?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, now we'll move on the one that we already had motion and second on, the original bill list
As amended.
as amended. Could we have a motion and second?
So moved. Second.
Okay, any discussion? Could we have roll call, please?
Simpson?
I'm going to have to abstain with the Jolly Roger check and vote yes on everything else.
So you're okay with the one that you questioned? before,
Yes,
correct?
yeah, Ed's fault. Make sure that's in the minutes. but It was Ed's fault for the $200.
McLeay,
Yes.
McCarty?
Yes.
DeLucre?
Yes.
Palula?
Yes.
Kern?
Yes.
Mayor Gunther?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, move to our consent agenda, Resolution 2014-137, Green Team refund. 138 is a Green Team refund. 139 through 144 are 4x4 permit refunds. 2014-145 is a real estate tax refund request. 2014-146 is a bulkhead permit refund request. We have the Women's Surf Fishing Club raffle license 707 and 708, leukemia raffle license, Leukemia Society, Leukemia and Lymphoma Society raffle licenses 709 and 710, Chamber of Commerce raffle 711, Cape Atlantic Coalition for Health Skin Care Screening request, and the Women's Surf Fishing Club tournament request, as well as the 10th Street South block party request. Can we have a motion and a second, please?
Mayor, I'd like to make the motion, but I would move first to amend it to pull Resolution 2014-146 about the bulkhead for discussion in our next item of council manager discussions.
I agree with that.
Okay,
Other than that, I would move the balance of the consent agenda.
so we're going to pull the bulkhead request off. So we have a motion to amend. Can we take a...
Second it.
All right. So we've had a motion and a second. All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good. So now we need a motion and a second on the consent agenda.
You didn't finish,
We
did you?
did that already?
You gonna read the rest of them? There's
I'll
three
move.
on the next
As
page.
amended?
Yeah, there's
As
three
amended.
on the next page.
I only have one.
I have
10th
one.
Street.
We got one.
Cape Atlantic Coalition for Health Skin Cancer
no.
Screening.
Yeah, we got all
Yeah,
that.
we
We
got all
got
that.
that.
Okay.
We got all that.
Okay, could we have a roll call, please?
Simpson?
Yes.
McLeay?
Yes.
McCarty?
Yes.
DeLucre?
Yes.
Palula?
Yes.
Kern?
Yes.
Mayor Gunther?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, now we move to the manager council discussion. One is the waiver of fees for construction permits relating to Superstorm Sandy, which is the first item. It's been a request. As you know, we have been waiving the fees for all construction permits relating to repairs and rebuilding from Sandy. There has been a request from Briggs Strong to continue that process. And that is the present authorization would be up to the first of the year. And I believe the city manager wants to make a recommendation closer to see where you are financially in the building office.
Right. At least after the third quarter to see if our expenses are, under our revenues. Because that department, as I explained before, has to be self-funded. The taxpayers can't fund it. So we don't want to get in a situation where we have to reduce employees in the department, to waive fees. Right now it looks okay, but we won't know until later. Plus, I think with the bulkhead permit waivers, we need to see how that fits in with the new construction, with the fees, because it's something we hadn't considered before.
So it's basically we're tabling that.
Yeah, and I think that needs to be...
Until September or October, we would know by then?
Right.
We would have an idea, at least we would have, after September 30th, probably by the end of October, we'll have some financials reconciled in the department to see 3 quarters, be able to probably make a projection for the last quarter.
Okay.
And if I could, just to follow up on that, in addition to the financial considerations that Jennifer will be looking into, it appears that the authorization that we've acted on previously to waive fees doesn't by its terms extend to bulkhead permits, which come under a different legal source. So in the course of evaluating what we want to do with respect to bulkhead permits, one of the things we'll have to look at is possibly adopting a resolution or amending the resolution for the fees that we now have to incorporate those as well.
Your suggestion is to incorporate the bulkhead fees?
Well, my suggestion for the moment is just to table it, get back information both generally on the financial situation with our permitting office and maybe specifically on what are the potential range of financial impacts of extending it to bulkhead permits.
Rick, would that be for Sandy-related damage only?
Yeah, in all these discussions, I'm anticipating that we're looking at that with the same parameters that we have for the other waivers.
Okay, so we are going to take a closer look at that particular item. And I would imagine there's some evaluation has to get done because some older bulkheads might have been in, we don't know what state of repair they were in prior to Sandy, so it's going to take a little analysis on our part to figure all that out. Actually, on your part, Ed, and then report back.
This was the one request, and it is an oversight of mine. I was not clear, in fact, I didn't see the resolution till this morning, but I was not clear that the waiving of fees were specific to that section of the ordinance. So when I sent this over to Jennifer, I did not note that. So this is the one, and you know, I'll come back with a look at what I think the impact would be. I'll give that to Jennifer.
Thank you, Ed. Okay, and then we have Fish Finder Marina's request for permission to utilize water located at Paper Street. And I know Joe Fumo is here. Joe, I don't know if you want to participate, if you give us some additional information about what your request is, if you come forward.
Joe Fumo, 529 Lafayette Boulevard. I've been using the end of the Paper Street for 10 years since I've been there. So I'm just trying to get permission from you guys to apply to the state to actually make it legal. And I'm not going to use it in any more capacity than I've been doing for the last 10 years.
Is it the installation of a permanent dock or something of that nature?
It's a floating dock that's there now.
I'll defer to Mr. Cerny about the use of Paper Street, which is
Well,
public right-of-way, I guess.
Fred, before you answer that, maybe I can throw another question on there for you. This sounds similar to what we did some months back with Jenkins Parkway. A property owner there had some docks that extended into the water area of the Paper Street, which sounds like what's going on with Joe's property. You've got docks outshore in what would be the extended Paper Street. And my understanding or my recollection from the last time on Jenkins Parkway was that DEP wouldn't deal with, in that case, the upland owner, in this case, Joe, because by their regulations, the proper party initially would be the city because it's a city right-of-way that's extending out over the water. So they needed before, and I guess you need now, to get our permission in order to deal with DEP and get whatever approvals you need to get.
That's the way I think I understand it.
Right.
So Joe, what is the dock? Is it just, are you renting it or using it to load and unload, or?
I use it for a couple of things. One thing, the main thing I use it for, is so boaters can pull up to it and come into my place for bait, tackle, service, that type of thing. Sea-Tow tows boats to it so I can haul them out of the water, whether they stay at my place or go somewhere else. I use it for people that I put in and out of the water at my place that tie up to it. That's it.
But all this has been going on, and there's not going to be any change, so it seems like it's nothing really for discussion. Well, if we do this so that Joe can move the next step and get the permissions that he needs from the DEP, and then you're set, right?
As I understand it, the dock exists. I've met
Right.
with Joe. The dock exists. Joe's proposal is not to expand his marina use in any way, so it does not become a site planning board issue. It is an existing dock that Joe has utilized for the last about 10 years in the operation of his marina that he is now attempting to legalize with the DEP. In that application process, the DEP requires that the upland owner sign as, authorizing that application. I guess as a property owner to some extent, upland property owner. And in this case, that's the city of Brigantine. So Joe cannot file an application to legalize this existing dock without the city of Brigantine consenting to that and signing off on that application.
It does not convey ownership.
No.
Well, I don't know this because I haven't seen the title, but unless there was a riparian grant at that street end, that's state-owned property. The only issue from DEP's perspective is when people are applying to get permission to get a license or a lease in riparian areas, the state first is going to deal with upland owner, defined by their regulations, which Joe would not be because he's next to it, rather than, immediately adjacent. But, again, maybe it's a grant area, I don't think so. If it's not, then we don't own it anyway. It's state-owned.
And Joe, I appreciate your operation and everything you do there, and, you actually catch fish, we see it in the newspaper. But is there any concern that we're setting a precedent for all these street end docks, street ends that don't have docks on them now, and then you have adjacent property owners? What happens to all of that?
I suppose down the road someone could say that you've done it before, you should do it now again. But if I'm understanding this correctly, the proposal, because the question was asked a few moments ago about a change of title. From what I understand here, and believe me, I'm hearing this for the first time. It's not like we had any paperwork or anything on this before coming here. If I understand what is happening, what Joe needs is from DEP on the water side. But what DEP needs is the upland owner contiguous to that water to say they have no objection to his bringing the application before DEP to get their permission. Is that right? Am I saying that right, Ed? That is correct. So all you are doing is, as the upland owner, you're saying we have no objection to this dock being placed on the water side of our upland interest. That doesn't deal with the precedential issue. I mean, if you're dealing with it once, you may see it again. I don't know what harm there is in that, but you may see it again. I think the members of council, are sufficiently wired into these kinds of issues to understand that it could come back in another place.
Yeah, that's true, but on the other part, the harm that would, if we don't do it, is to Joe and his business.
And
That's the problem.
it may very well be that there's a rationale here that it's an ongoing business that has commercial value to the municipality, and that there is no harm to the municipality as the upland owner to say to Joe, you have our permission to go to DEP and seek whatever licensing you need on that dock. I mean, it may very well be that commercial interest is sufficient to distinguish this from another application of the same kind that is not commercial in nature.
But I have to be honest with you, I don't know if we're prepared tonight to make it. I think we have to have our solicitor do a little research on this, because I may be wrong on this, but I believe we have sold riparian interest that we've had in the past. They've had to go out, for adjacent homeowners. Although we may not have a riparian interest, we got an upland interest on this. So, not trying to tie you up, Joe, but we don't want to open a can of worms where you have all these people who live on street ends coming in saying, I want to extend my dock, I want to do X, Y, and Z. It could be a problem.
I think though too, Joe's been working with this dock for quite some time. There has not been an issue with the city.
No, but now you're legalizing it.
Legal.
It's a,
Well,
Right, but I don't know too
If
many
it became a
businesses
problem,
that are
we could-
using street ends right now.
See, it's not, and again, this is all subject to what the title would show, and I don't know if Joe knows. Do you have title for that piece to show whether there was any riparian grant area that's been given to the city or to other private parties within the boundaries of that extended street end?
I have a grant at my property.
Okay.
Um,
And the reason I'm asking is, to my thinking, it's qualitatively different if we, the city, have some property interest. If we have a riparian grant or a partial riparian grant in this area that we're talking about, then we have something of value, and that should be conveyed, for something representing value. But if we don't, and if that is, it's not subject to any grant, it's owned by the state, our only right would be that we would get first look to build docks or apply to DEP to build docks or other structures within that area. If that's not part of the city's plan, and I'm going to assume it's not, then I don't know that we have any interest there that, at all, that we would need to protect. And maybe the balance swings even further when you consider that it is to the benefit of a commercial property owner.
Yeah, and I agree
we
with
did
Rick.
this already, I think, down on Jenkins Parkway.
Right, but again, Rick, it's like vacating something. Doesn't the adjoining neighbor have the right to have half of it?
We're not thinking.
No, it's different because when you vacate a street, you know, I don't go all mumbo jumbo on you, but when you vacate a street, you
You do
have,
that.
it's the city having first decided it no longer has any public interest in maintaining that piece of right of way, and then almost always you do split it down the middle. There's some cases
Right.
where it goes, but generally splits down the middle. But here, if I'm right about the state of title, we don't have a right of way out there that we would vacate. We don't have any property interest
You
at
know,
all.
But we probably have a grant or something like that.
Well, that would be different. If we do,
I think
that's different.
all down there was a grant. Actually, you owned the water, because the one property I owned, I think, next door to you, you actually, you had a deed to the water at that
Oh, yeah, that's
time.
common.
Yeah.
That's common. And
And I think before we make a decision, and again, Joe, I'm all in favor of promoting the commercial stuff like that. I think Mike Snyder back there, and I'd like to hear from him what he feels. He has, you know, he has a building going up too, and make sure, you know, all the neighbors are agreeable to this. You know, it's like a planning board here. you know.
But I think there are some legal issues that
Yeah,
have to
and
be
then Fred
examined.
would have to
Not
work
to
it
ask
out,
you to
too.
decide this tonight, because it's the first time you're looking at it.
Yeah. Well, I would ask Joe, if you can, could you obtain a title report, or at least a report identifying whether there's any riparian grant in this area where your docks are located or proposed to be located? I mean, you could talk to any title agent.
I agree with Eddie. I believe that that whole area back there is a grant.
Well, then the question would be, who holds the grant? Is it in the city's name, and does somebody else hold it from
I
before?
wouldn't think it's in the city's name,
likely.
me personally, but the way I understand it, and I think I understand it, if you guys are not going to use that water there, you have the first option to use that water there. And if you're not going to use it, then I can apply for it.
That's true.
Right.
Now, the
If
question is,
upland owner is not going to use that area beyond the bulkhead waterward, then I can apply for it.
right, if the upland owner
But I just need
relinquishes,
permission to do
but
it.
I think what Andy was alluding to is, and it sounds like you are too, there might be a new or a different issue, which is actual ownership or property interest in the grant area. You know, I'm assuming, until I see differently, that the city doesn't actually own anything on the other side of the bulkhead, notwithstanding it's within a paper street, that the ownership, the title ownership is with the state because it's riparian tidally flowed. That might be wrong. If there's a grant that was given whenever, it's entirely possible that today, the rights under that grant are still with the city. If that's the case, then in order to deal with any property owners, our procedure is going to have to be a little bit different. I'm not going to say there's going to be compensation necessarily, but, you know, there may have to be. That would be the legal question back to Fred, if the title shows that's the case.
Joe, when do you need it answered by?
Yesterday.
Well, listen, I've been trying to obtain this waterway and the waterway that Mike now owns behind his house for a long time. I mean, since I've been there. I wanted Mike's property, but I was not allowed to, a commercial establishment, a marina, was not allowed to build in a shellfish, commercial shellfish habitat, which the tidalway is deemed from a map from the 1930s. So I hired Stu Farrell to do a big study at all in that waterway back there, and he found the water to be contaminated and dead. The bottom's dead. It can't support clams. They found in 16 hours of digging, they found 16 clams there that he believes were dropped there from seagulls, which I know were. They pick them up elsewhere and then try to open them on the dock, and they fall into the water right there. So, but post Sandy, the state has contacted me and said, which is too late now, but we'll entertain giving you access to that waterway now. There's going to be a change in the wording of how commercial establishments expand in commercial shellfish habitat.
But what I'm getting at is, can you get your documentation to our solicitor, to Jennifer's office, and then
We have the
you have it?
application,
Yeah.
yes.
Can you get it to Fred so he can look at it? I hate to put him on a spot tonight and say, make a decision. You know,
I
might
mean,
not have all
it's
the
okay.
information.
I mean, you're not.
I think everyone
I
here
waited
wants to
a
see.
real long time.
Right, wants to see a commercial
Yeah.
enterprise like
And
yours
there's no
continue.
guarantee that I'm getting any of this,
Right.
by the way. I just want to apply.
Joe,
Okay.
I
This-
think the thing we need first, if you can get it, is the title. We need to know if the city or anybody else is the holder of riparian grant interests in this area of water that you're looking at.
I asked Jim Barber about this a long time ago, and he told me that the city has no ownership, they have no grant, they have no anything in that property.
Title report's probably a little more compelling.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even agree with that, to tell you the truth, you know? It doesn't help me, but I don't agree with it.
If you can make sure that all the information you have gets to Jennifer and then gets to our solicitor.
Yeah, you guys have it.
Okay, and then we'll be able to make an informed decision.
Okay,
Thank you, Joe.
thanks.
Thanks.
Sure, Mike.
Mike Snyder, 10 Beach Cove, Brigantine. I'm the adjacent property owner. If you've rode by, you'll see there's a rather large two-family structure going up, which I went before the planning board for. When I bought the property, there was a set of steps leading to a ramp at the end of my sidewalk, which I frowned upon as far as a hazard. Somebody was to fall and going up them steps leading to that ramp, going down to that floater, I'd be involved with a lawsuit. And I've been involved with lawsuits to this nature before. And the last settlement was $75,000. Joe was kind enough to move the stairs and the floater over to the right, more closer to his property, which I appreciated the fact that the dock was moved. Now that we're building homes there, and we put our docks in, and development on the upland and the other part of the property is being developed. The floating dock that's in the city right away, there's currently boats being moored on both sides of it. What I would ask is if the city could do something to allow him to have that, but I believe that the homeowner which will be on my side of the property has the right to have that, either have access to that side of the dock and split the cost of the insurance, and the city should be indemnified. If you're allowing somebody to walk up them steps and cross city property to get to this dock, if they fall and they get hurt, they're going to sue the city. Okay? I just rented the parking lot across the street from the city, and the first thing I had to do was provide insurance. So if Joe does it, if I do it, if we split the cost of it, there should be insurance to indemnify the city for any harm. But, and this dock, there should be a right for both property owners to have access to it. If we split the cost of the dock, that's acceptable. If we don't split the cost, then he can have both sides of it. But there's going to be a property owner on both sides. Right now, I got the weenie wagon parked on my side. Okay, so when I show the property, when I try to develop this property and sell this property, I have to explain to people why there's a dock on the city right away at the end of a city street, which isn't allowed. Why people have access to walk through city property to get to this dock, which needs to be insured to protect the city. But I don't think, I may live in that house. I don't want to look at that boat that's renting that space on city property. Okay, if he wants to put it on the other side of the floater, then I guess that's acceptable. But right now, it's on my property line. If I'm bringing boats in there, it's not acceptable. You're as a lawyer, I think you understand that there's somebody slips on them steps or slips on that ramp, who are they gonna go after? They're after the city of Brigantine, the biggest pocket, okay? So the same paperwork that me and Joe signed across the street for parking needs to be implemented on that dock if it's to continue. Just because something has been there for 10 years doesn't make it legal, okay? We're at the point now they're trying to make it legal. The state acknowledges that it's not legal. The city should acknowledge it a long time ago. If it's gonna maintain, if it's gonna be there, both property owners need to have access to it. If we're gonna sell that city street, both property owners have access to buy it, okay? If you're gonna vacate it, both property owners have access to equal parts of it. I don't think what I'm asking for is out of line. I worked with Joe when I went before the planning board. I vacated the driveway on that city street so he'd have full access to it. I reconfigured a lot of different things, so we're trying to work together. Giving up one boat slip, one rental, I don't think is out of line for the city of Brigantine.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. So Fred, you'll take a look at this and get back to us?
We'll take a look at it.
All right. Sure, if you would just come up and use the microphone? Well,
I have to see what the rules are. Try to look it up on the internet.
Kim Fumo, 529 Lafayette. We do have insurance on that floating dock right now, just to let you know that.
thank you. Okay.
Mayor, before we leave, Council Manager, I did have one item I wanted to discuss. It's not on the list. But
Okay.
I'll defer to others if they want to go first. Seeing none, I wanted to report back to council officially on behalf of the Beach Committee and to advise the public. The Beach Committee met a couple weeks back. One of the matters that we discussed, and for reference, those who may not know, the Beach Committee is comprised of a couple members of council, myself and Councilwoman McClay, our city manager, representatives of the police and public works, not just any rep, John Doring, and the lifeguards and a couple members of the public as well. And one of the items that we talked about was ice cream sales on the beach. And the background, as we've kind of touched on tonight, talking about the golf course, as you know, is that we initially sought bids to have ice cream sold on the beach, to bid the entirety or virtually the entirety of the beach with a section carved out for a single bidder to sell. We didn't get any response. We lowered the price to $40,000. We didn't get a response. We, in part, met at the Beach Committee to talk about what our next step, if any, ought to be. And the range of options at that point were, rebid it at a different price, do nothing for this season, or the floor was open to other ideas. And we invited one of last year's bidders, who's here tonight, Mr. Paul Vanderin, who is with Jack and Jill, to speak to the committee, and he did. And the committee asked him some questions about various aspects of ice cream sales last year and this. In particular, we, the committee, had questions about and were concerned about some problems and difficulties which had come up last year in various aspects of our ice cream beach sales, including interactions and conflicts between some of the people working on the beach and some of the people working, I'll call it, on land from the ice cream trucks, including at least one fist fight. Prior to the time the Beach Committee met, we had gotten reports and verified reports that there were, on a couple of occasions, people down on the beach selling ice cream, even though clearly no one had been authorized to do that for this year. That was one of the things we talked about with Mr. Vanderin, and he promised to look into it to the extent he could. Since that time, we, in this case being the city through the manager and the police, received additional reports, confirmed, about people without authorization selling ice cream on the beach. I received, and I guess you probably all received, a copy of an email today, I guess it was, which indicates that apparently, and this is what is in the email, I can't confirm this myself, I've not seen it, but the email states that there have been 2 or 3 people standing in the shallow water down at the cove selling ice cream from some kind of floating apparatus, a float of some kind. And not sure, again, I haven't seen that myself, but take it at face value, they're saying that there have been ice cream sales at the Cove, and I'm sure we could confirm that one way or the other. So, not knowing that last part, because it had not yet happened, when the beach committee met, our unanimous decision was to recommend to council as a whole that we not rebid this year for beach ice cream sales for a variety of reasons, partly including the problems that we've encountered in the past, partly including what was already the lateness of the season and now is that much later before, if we were to go out, if we were to agree that we would go out to an auction or bid again, you have a minimum 10-day notice from today, so you're looking at the end of July before you even have anybody in there, and then for them to muster and get on the beach, you're looking at August. In addition to that, the recommendation of the beach committee was that, besides not selling this year, that we look at some, and we start looking now, at some alternatives for next year. This is not an exhaustive list, and it's not necessarily even a prioritized list, but ideas including going back out to bid, similar to the way we did last year and attempted to do this year, or perhaps establishing and bidding out fixed kiosk locations at different points along the beach to sell not just ice cream perhaps, but a variety of products of interest to beachgoers, and really anything else that people might come up with. The beach committee's recommendation is take no action this year on ice cream sales, don't rebid it, and revisit soon all options for how we want to handle it next year and bring those recommendations back to council, if possible by the turn of the year. And that was it.
Rick, thank you for the recommendation from the beach committee. I think it's something that council should discuss, what we do for the rest of the season. I'm sure we've all received some correspondence from disappointed people that ice cream is not on the beach. But the one thing that without a doubt was done wrong this year is you can't put a bid out for ice cream in May. I think this is something that needs to go out in January, February, so there's a lot more time to bring, if there are issues, you have time to recover and get it back out again. Right now, there's no time. So we're stuck with what we have, and looking at the options, the options right now, none of them are good in terms of who can get down there and operate legally with all the requirements that there are under the ordinance. So it's a missed opportunity this year, unless there's another option that we're not thinking of. My initial reaction was that we should just let veterans who want to sell ice cream register with the city of Brigantine, go through a criminal background check that they need to go through because they're going to be down on the beach, and just let them go sell ice cream. And whatever happens, happens. I don't know how quickly we can get that underway, given the fact that we're in the middle of July right now. But this year was a missed opportunity. If we had a way to get veterans on the beach, quite frankly, I would rather see them out there making a living than us debating over what the cost is of the license to vend in Brigantine. So maybe the solution is just let veterans do it. And that may be, something that's doable or not doable, but there are some time constraints given where we are this year.
Well, Phil, that is one of the things that was discussed by the beach committee, and the beach committee's, and again, without prioritizing, or because we didn't try to accept or reject any idea, it was just a question of what alternatives might be out there. The recommendation was, however, not to attempt to do anything this year. I agree with you, sooner is better, but our real problem this year was that we as a council all agreed on what was an appropriate bid price of $70,000, and objectively a reasonable price based on how the bids came in last year. The fact that there were no bidders, I don't have an answer for that, but it's reality. The fact that we lowered it dramatically and rather soon afterwards, when a person still could easily have captured the entirety of the season from 4th of July on. And we still got no bidders. Again, I don't know why, but there it is. So one of the options that the beach committee talked about, and may very well bring back to council, would be a whole different system, where you simply open up the beaches just to licensed veterans, legitimately licensed veterans.
Right.
You know, the old shell game where you have a veteran riding in the truck, and basically a non-veteran enterprise. And we may go that route. But just so it's clear, the recommendation of the beach committee was nothing this year.
Right. So the beach committee has made a recommendation. Council, as everyone knows, committees can only make recommendations. Action has to be taken by council. So
Correct.
the ball has been lobbed back in council's court as to what you want to do with this, if you can do anything at this point.
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we go with the mayor's plan where if we have time, we have the necessary background checks for veterans just for this year. I'm not saying we'll do it for next year. We'll get reorganized next year or whatever, where we just let them go out there and serve the people of Brigantine and our second home buyers and our visitors to the town, so they can have ice cream. I mean, we're talking about little kids here not being able to get ice cream. We're chasing people off the beach with bells, and like Rick said, they're coming out of the water with ice cream. So I don't know how they're doing that, but that's pretty unique. But I'd like to see maybe give the jobs to the veterans and allow them to get on the beach this year free of charge, and just as long as we have background checks, and because they are dealing with little kids and everything like that. So that's my recommendation for this ice cream disaster.
Do you think you could operationalize it?
I think they would need to have at least a mercantile license.
Right.
Yeah, but we need to make sure you have background checks on.
And the person
they
vending
do
has to
that?
be.
What's the time frame on something like that?
I have no idea. I mean, if we do a new mercantile license, it's through the fee ordinance.
Right.
So it'd be the first reading, the second reading, then the 20 days. But I don't know, Fred could do it through a resolution for a temporary period of time to add a mercupile fee.
The backgrounds are
then-
done electronically, but the problem is scheduling it. If they can get scheduled, they can get done quickly.
Oh, I'm talking about the fee, updating the
Yeah.
fee ordinance just to allow us to even do it. The backgrounds, we would have to do, besides checking the fingerprints, it's about $52 for each person doing it to go get their background check done. We'd also have to figure out a way to also do, it wouldn't be a background check, but a check with the state as that person's designation as a veteran or not, or they could have the card maybe that they need to present into the construction office if we decide to have the mercantile fee.
Can we have preference to veterans from Brigantine if they're?
I don't know, we can't do preference to Brigantine, but we can do veterans. We can say absolutely nobody but veterans.
And they would also need to have whatever
Yeah.
the cart or something that is.
Their organization.
You just can't go down
If
with
it's
the
Jack
igloo
and Jill
cooler.
or
You have
whatever.
to have the cart that you use on the beach.
Well, it could be a cart, or some beaches,
They
the
have the box.
veterans carry a box with them.
Is
With
that
the
Atlantic
scuba-
City or?
scuba diving equipment.
Atlantic City, they walk, I don't know how they refill their boxes. I'm not sure how that works.
Yeah. If I could, I do appreciate the sentiment Andy expressed, but honestly, I think there are way too many details and issues that we ought not just jump blindly into. We really, for that structure, we don't have anything in place to do that, either institutionally or in our ordinances. I think it's unfortunate maybe if we go the rest of the summer without ice cream, but each one of us up here who grew up on the island made it through every summer without ice cream. We had the
That
barefoot, and
explains
that
a
was
lot.
plenty. So I wish we could, but it didn't work out for reasons which I'm a bit puzzled about. But again, that's our reality. But I don't think I don't think we're well advised to try and create on the fly a new system and implement it in the last couple of weeks of the summer.
Well, you know, Rick, I appreciate what you're saying, but if we can do something, I do have a motion on the floor, so if we can't do it, it just falls away, you know, and basically putting the efforts on, I guess, the back of our manager and our solicitor. So I made a motion, and I need somebody to second it if we want to either
I'll
vote
second
on
that
it.
motion.
Okay.
So the motion is to allow veterans registered with the city of Brigantine for mercantile fee to sell ice cream on the beach for the rest of the summer?
Do we have a mercantile fee already set up? Is there a mercantile fee
I don't know
for
if
this?
there's one specifically for ice cream.
And who's going to pay for the background checks?
They have to pay for their own. So, I mean, you could just make a nominal fee for, you know, just the registration with the city. I don't know if you're going to,
I think most of the mercantile licenses are $50. We did a proposal a number of times when the fee ordinance came to council to upgrade most of those from 50 to 75. But right now, the majority of mercantile licenses are 50.
So make it $50
So-
and they do their own back.
they
do
pay
the
for their own background check, though.
Yeah.
Right. So you're asking for a $50 mercantile fee, or registration fee, I guess, with the city.
But does
But
this have
is
to be
it-
done
is it
by
worth-
ordinance or by resolution?
But is it worth all of this kind of gyrations and stretching?
But you may have some people
Because
who
it-
are already qualified because they're selling on other beaches. So they may be able to comply.
Actually, most of the people that are selling on our beaches are not veterans. We only have, from what I know of, one person that's a veteran that had
No, I
sold
don't
on
mean
the
in
beach.
Brigantine, they may be selling in other places.
Oh, yeah, in
Yeah.
other places, I know Ventnor has a selection of veterans.
But if they're selling in other places, how are they going to sell here? If you want the
Well,
veterans
this is
themselves to
pretty,
do it.
open
It-
territory.
No, but it seems like we're turning cartwheels to do what essentially is a feel-good thing and really isn't. It's going to put a lot of people through a lot of gyrations with almost no benefit to anybody in the long run.
Well, it could help some veterans make some cash for a month in the summer, and it could help some families if they really want ice cream on the beach. I don't disagree with Councilman DeLucre. We grew up, you weren't even allowed to eat on the beach.
Well, see, and look
you
what
know,
it did to you.
Exactly. But you know, I think, you know, obviously people have gotten used to that, the ice cream man and the, you know, the children are used to it. It's worth giving it a shot for the rest of the summer.
What's the enforcement issue and the penalty if it's not a veteran? I mean, last year we were
You gotta
supposed to
have a badge.
Last year we were supposed to have veterans. I met some 16-year-old veterans on the
No,
beach
well, allowed
selling
in
ice
our-
cream.
Allowed in our ordinance, if they could, they were supposed to hire veterans first, but it wasn't mandatory. You know, to be honest with you, our office has not had any complaints about ice cream not sold on the beach, except for the one we received this week where a little girl wrote in, saying that she's very sad that we weren't selling ice cream on the beach because the city charged too much for the bids, you know, which was an odd statement for a little girl. But other than that, the complaints that we have is the bell ringing on the beach and some obscenities spoken by some of the ice cream vendors, not, you know, on the beach and things of that nature. We haven't had complaints about ice cream not being sold on the beach. And as everyone remembers, the beach committee just recommended this to council 2.5 years ago. The first year we did it for a month. Last year we did it for the summer. This year we haven't been doing it, so it's not really a long-standing practice here. I also met with a veteran who gave some ideas, which wasn't a mercantile fee. It was actually bidding out different sections of the beach, splitting it up even more, making the amount lower, that they could do that, and he feels that that would be the best bet for the veterans. If we have spots that are $5,000 each for next year, only veterans could bid on them, and that would give them their own section, because what happens when you open up the mercantile licenses, which is a great idea, but the problem is anyone can come in and get a mercantile license. We could have 15 people fighting with each other down at the cove trying to sell the ice cream. So I love the idea that we support the veterans, because I think that's what lacked in this whole thing, and that's what mayor and all of council wanted to support from the very beginning, was the veterans getting these ice cream sales. But, you know, I'm fine with it. I can go. We could try to figure out a way to update the fee ordinance to add this mercantile license in for $50, at least temporarily for this year, see how it goes.
I mean, if we do go this way, can you say, okay, we're only gonna give out a maximum of 10? Is that possible?
I don't believe we can put caps on that.
No. I mean, part of the problem here is that, and again, I'm on board with the philosophy of this and, you know, the sympathy behind it, but we don't have any system. We don't have any controls. There's nothing that council has adopted that would let us say, okay, assuming legally you even could, you know, we're gonna limit it to this many people, or we're gonna limit the number of people who can be in any zone at any one
Correct.
time, or, you know, leaving aside, what are we gonna, are police chasing people up and down the beach to verify that they're the properly licensed vendor? I mean,
We got them
it's-
chasing them up and down the beach
right,
because they're ringing the bell.
look how well that's worked out.
How did we police it last year?
The problem is, last year, we had one area that was bid. The second area is bid, the people pulled out. Then we received communication from two of the companies that work at many of the shore communities, both making comments about legalities and that they were going to sue. So Fred and I had met with the police, some other city representatives, and decided that we were going to do nothing for last season with all the complaints we were getting and wait to address it for this year. I brought it back to the beach committee, explained the situation we were having with the different zones. To address that issue, Fred and I and the police came up with presenting to the beach committee to make the whole beach one zone. When we did that, we put it out to bid early in the year with what was it, 70,000, I believe, was the minimum. We didn't get any bids. We then, a couple weeks later, put it out to auction for 40,000. We did not get any auction, and from any of the companies. And now they're saying for 1 month, you know, one of the companies is saying for 1 month they'd be willing 20,000. However, they were willing 40,000 for 2.5 months. And all this time, even last year, we weren't going and finding the people. This year we're more aggressive. We are taking them off the beach and finding them.
We do a shared service with Atlantic City? Just take their ice cream folks
think
over here?
I think Atlantic City may be mercantile licenses they go through.
All right, we have a motion in a second, I think, on the floor to find a system that would allow individual veterans to sell for the rest of the summer.
Well, but how are we going to do that? Do we have to either have a resolution or an ordinance, and how long is that going to take?
Okay, let's start, entry level. You have an ordinance for the sale of ice cream on the beach. The discussion we're having now falls outside of that ordinance. So let's at least understand that. Because if we try to accommodate the little girl who wrote the note, and if we find a way to do this, don't think that the big-time ice cream vendors are not going to begin poking around at the fact that we're doing something that's not in the ordinance. I mean, come on, who are we kidding? So we're going to be outside of our own ordinance. You can try it, but I can't guarantee you where that goes. You don't have enough time to go back, amend the ordinance,
Right.
whether it's for mercantile or anything else, to do anything functional this year. So if you want to operate outside your own ordinance, we can do a resolution now that says you're going to do it, and then we can try to figure out what that means. Maybe Jennifer can tell you, but I don't know what it means here in this building when that veteran comes in. What office is he or she going to? What are they going to be given? What kind of timeline are they on to go out and get their fingerprints and everything else? What kind of bucket do they need to go out there with their ice cream in it to keep it sanitary and whatever else? Who's answering those questions? I mean, sure, we'll go do it if you tell us to, but
Somebody take your ice cream when you were a kid?
I told you from the beginning, if it didn't work,
Yeah.
how to handle this, declare victory and keep going.
All right. You know, I think Fred kind of just put it all to rest there. I mean, we'll still vote, but I just don't see how we could do it. And I had my misgivings, but now there are full-blown assurances that we can't do this, at least at this juncture, the way that we may want to do it. Fred, can I ask you a separate question, which you don't have to answer now? But if it's accurate, as was reported to us, that people are standing in shallow water and selling ice cream. A, are those vendors within the jurisdiction of the city? And/or B, would they need, if they're not within the jurisdiction of the city, then I guess by definition, they're on state-owned land, they would need to get some kind of state license, wouldn't they?
I don't know how they're not under the jurisdiction of the city. They're right there at a city beach. You know, you need a beach badge to be there? Yeah, you need a beach badge to be there. So they need a municipal license to do what it is they're doing. And as much as I just said that we were going to be outside of our own ordinance, they are clearly outside of our ordinance, and there are clearly penalties associated with that.
Thank you.
Can you withdraw the motion?
The standards that you just talked about are in our ordinance, though.
Start with the premise
Right.
that the ordinance provides how a license is issued to sell ice cream on the beach. And anybody who is selling ice cream and does not have that license, there are penalties in the ordinance. So the fact that we did not have a successful bidding this year has not invalidated our ordinance. The violation provision of the ordinance is still there.
Right.
So somebody can still be charged with selling ice cream without a proper license.
It's amazing that ice cream has to be this bureaucratic. It's incredible.
I'd like to take the strawberry ice cream off the table.
You're withdrawing your motion?
I'm withdrawing the
All right.
motion because of Fred's ice cream finish.
Okay.
Public comment, please.
Can we go into regular public comment now?
Mayor, before you do, you still have one issue that came out of the executive session, the personnel matter dealing with the Cultural Arts Commission.
Yes,
Yes, do we have a recommendation?
yes, Mayor, I'd like to nominate Linda Congemi. Yeah, Linda Congemi to the Cultural Arts Commission.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Congratulations, Linda. Okay, now we're going to move on to public comment. If you can comment on any issue you'd like to comment on, you have 5 minutes. Please use the microphone, state your name and address for the record. Under the new rules, you will not get an answer until after you sit down. So don't expect anything coming from the chair until after you sit down. Anyone want to speak? Any public comment? Yes, Carl.
My name is Eric Matuzin. I live at 216 14th Street North. A couple things I was wondering, I know there's several complaints about the grass at the rod and reel. It's about this high. I know they cut the grass at the rod and reel, but nothing's been done with the house next door. If there's any plans of that getting fixed. Second, at the end of 14th and Brig Beach, at the drain hole, there's a hole this big inside of the street. You know, it's just getting bigger and bigger. And if they could put a no right-hand turn from East Beach to 14th Street North, about 30, 40 cars a day, going up the one-way street. And then last night, we finally got our lights turned on the seawall. That was a great job. Today, the fire department started putting the ropes up to put the flags. And about the ice cream, you go to Atlantic City, if you're a veteran, you do a background check, you pay for yourself, you get a veteran's vendor's card. There's no cost to the city. You know, they do background check, fingerprinting. I already got my vendor's card. They can put that around their neck if they need to. Sell ice cream on the beach. That's it.
Thank you, Eric.
You're welcome.
And I think the complaints about the grass were duly noted. And
The hole in the street.
the hole in the bulkhead as well, I'm sure is. Okay, any other public comment? Yes, Rose.
Rose Roberts, 903 Saracen Road. I hope council spends as much time with the golf course as you have with ice cream on the beach. I have a question, and I need some clarification, because I know there were a lot of numbers thrown out from the golf course, about the golf course, which probably aren't true. They had no backup. But when you award this operator to manage the golf course for 25 years, right? And this operator, I imagine in the RFP tells you exactly what improvements the company's going to make. And we have 5 years left on the debt service. Does the operator pay that debt server that's managing the golf course? Are they going to pay that 400,000 plus yearly debt service? And since Lisa McClay had all those numbers, when I sit down and it's her minute, I would like her to answer that for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. Any other public comment? Oh, you can, Lisa, do you have your...
I'll start.
I don't have the documentation in front of me, but the golf course utility fund lost a lot of money, and I believe it was over $1 million, close to $2 million. That was in the budget. That was in the budget presentation.
Well,
that's,
Rose, you
those
can't
are the
have
numbers.
interaction between. We can only respond after you sit down. Anyone else?
We're not asking in the RFP that the debt service be made by the whoever gets the lease, if the lease happens, because at this point we believe that would be a deterrent to people responding to the RFP, and we've said that several times.
No, Rose. No, you had your time. You're not allowed to ask another. Right. Right, you're done. Okay?
Yeah, exactly.
And
now, the other,
speaking?
Mr. DeLucre.
were you speaking to Ms. Roberts' comments or no?
No, I haven't.
Because I was intending to do that.
Yes.
Thank you. The answer, the question of when we award, does the operator pay the debt service? When we get the RFPs back, they're going to be evaluated. It's going to be determined which of the proposals is worthy of further exploration and negotiation. When the negotiations happen, everything is on the table. We're going to try and get the best deal we can financially. Less than a minute.
Less than a minute.
And the one issue you talked about with the debt service, there are 4 years left, approximately $400,000 a year, and that was the concern that I and Councilman Simpson expressed, is that there is no guarantee that taxpayers will be made whole in the RFP that the way it's written. Mr. Pucci.
John Pucci, 100 Sheridan Square. I think this council, as an identity, as a council, has acted tonight hypocritical, discriminatory, and not in good faith. Why did Joe Furno be allowed to come up and have this interaction back and forth with several council members, not even in an official public comment, over 10, 15 minutes to get his items addressed back and forth and his questions answered numerously, whereas other members of the public, specifically myself, can't do that in the first public comment. You should be ashamed of yourselves. You're not being fair to everybody out here. Now, I don't know Mr. Furno. I support his business. I support fishing. I'm an avid fisherman. I'm a licensed captain. But tonight, you're pick and choosing who you want to talk to and who you don't want to talk to. Who the new rules, the new resolution that was made in the beginning of the meeting, that's for some people, but it's not for others. It's unfair, it's discriminatory, and it's not acting in good faith. This question this comment is from Mr. Palilla. The public did not receive the agenda for this meeting tonight on the website until after 9 o'clock this morning. Now, this isn't the first time that I've mentioned this. This is a continuing problem. So all this transparency that you're looking for, I think the council should make a decision, a consensus, what time period that the public should get the agenda on the website. Should it be 48 hours? Should it be 72 hours? I would like that question answered. Surely it should be more than the morning of the meeting, because if you go to work and you come back and go to the meeting at 6 o'clock, you don't have time for all this review and for the public to have the proper knowledge and opinions to address the items on the agenda. It's not fair. We should have more time. And I want to know how much time the public should have to receive the agenda on the website. I'm disappointed that you didn't approve the no smoking policy. It's been 3 weeks to a month since your last meeting. It's my understanding that you've had that ordinance from the solicitor for at least two meetings ago. You've had that ordinance. Now, this has come up before in the spring, and I was told, well, we're going through the budget, after the budget. Now, this just seems to be some additional extension. Why not to approve a no smoking ordinance? You're more concerned about a couple golfers out on the golf course, but the people that walk through those doors over there to come to the meeting, or especially if there's municipal court going on, asthmatics and people with heart conditions, they have to breathe that secondhand smoke. There's been no talk about that in your tabling of the ordinance. There's been no talking about the new cars that you're getting, the city cars, about the smoking there. That's all going to continue. I don't think there's much difference in what's happening with the governor. Nevertheless, I calculate the second meeting in August, that governor should have signed within the 45 days that new law or not. So I would be looking forward to, and I'd be asking that question again, August, the second meeting in August, what's the consensus of the council on the smoking ordinance? This is a resolution that was passed last August concerning the Lifeguard Pension Commission. It's not on the website. There are other commissions are on the website and committees. I want to know why this didn't get the same respect and be put on the website with the rest of the commissions since last August. There's no more public safety director. I'd like to know who is in charge when the city manager goes on vacation. And the reason why I ask that is it's my understanding that the public safety director was in charge of the office of city manager. Even though we're paying a stipend to a deputy city manager, now that the public safety director is not here, I just want to know what's the status, what's the process. If the city manager is not here, who's in charge of that position?
Time's up.
John, I think your time is up. Thank you.
Before I comment, Jennifer, do you want to touch on any of these?
Well, once again, I'm still the presiding officer of this meeting, so I will determine who comments. And quite frankly, these restrictions, as you can see, are ridiculous because you can't clarify anything that anybody says and to find out what they're asking. The issue you raised with the city manager is the city manager's purview to direct who she would like to be the manager in her absence, or an acting manager in her absence. As with the website, the agenda is a moving target. It moves right up until the meeting. It shouldn't be that way. It should be posted. Should not have late additions to the agenda. That it's going to happen, but the most of it should be up there well in advance of the meeting. In fact, I remember members of this council who were very upset who didn't get their full agenda packet on a Friday prior to a Wednesday meeting. So we need to do a better job, and that's not anyone's fault other than the information getting to them late so that they have a chance to put it on the agenda. So we know when the meetings are. We need to work toward getting the bulk of that agenda done in that time frame. Mr. Mackey.
Oh, excuse me.
Do you have a comment, Mr.
I want to
Delivery?
respond to two of Mr. Pucci's points. First, the no smoking ordinance, Mr. Pucci, as was stated here, the reason it was tabled tonight is because there is a measure pending at the state level, which is going to cover a lot of the same ground that the proposed local ordinance would cover. And it makes no sense, in my view anyway, to move forward with action on a first reading and adoption of our ordinance when the substance of it is going to be dramatically affected by what does or doesn't happen with the governor. So we simply carried it, and it's still a live issue. The other question about Joe Fumo's participation. Keep in mind, please, that happened during the council manager comments. Mr. Fumo was asked by the mayor to come forward because he has direct information that is relevant to the matter the council needed to discuss. Mr. Fumo is the person who has made the application to DEP, Tidelands, and he's the person who's asking for some relief from the city. He knows better than anyone what that subject is about, and the mayor, I think correctly, called him forward to offer whatever insights he could into that issue. We could have, alternatively, let him sit there and simply discuss in the absence of any real information, but that wouldn't be real productive.
Okay. Mr. Mackey.
James Mackey, 1325 Varden Road. I think I wasn't here when that resolution went down tonight, and from what I understand, I think it's very cowardice of the members of council who voted for that resolution. But for years, we were able to come up here and get an answer. Getting it from after we sit down to me, it's not only inconsiderate, but I believe it's an act of cowardice because you don't want to answer the questions that we ask. This is our forum also. That's why we have this open mic. It's called public comment. And I think that it needs to be relooked at. And I think that it was the wrong way to go. And when you go home tonight, when you lay your head down on your pillow, you say, "Did I make the right decision?" And the other reason I came up here tonight for was about the golf course. I've heard the argument about this ice cream selling and leasing on the beach over these last few weeks, and I say to myself, you know what? If this city council and this city management cannot figure out how to sell ice cream, how is it we can trust you with an RFP worth millions and millions of dollars going forward, possibly for 24 years? And I think that I think the whole thing should be put off for a considerable length of time. Get through this particular season, and then see where we're at. And I do have some suggestions that the RFP should be placed on the city's webpage for every taxpayer to review. The RFP should be published in both local newspapers for every taxpayer to review. The taxpayer should be able to have an open critique of the RFP and make suggestions or recommendations on the pros and cons of a management format or a third-party lessee. And at the next City Council meeting, August 6, 2014, we should have an open forum to allow the taxpayers the ability to question City Council as to why they believe the lessee is the best way to handle the links. when the course was purchased through the bonds for millions of taxpayers' dollars, the taxpayers were promised when the loan was paid, the taxes would the taxpayers would benefit from the profits of the course. This lease process basically takes away all that potential of the taxpayers losing possibly millions of dollars on their return on investment. And again, I say, hold off on the RFP.
Thank you, Jim. John?
John Livesey, 203 9th Street North. Two things. Try to keep it brief. First, what happened tonight earlier, I didn't see it anywhere on the agenda. I know you have a disclaimer in the back that the City Council has a right to act on things that aren't on the agenda, but I think the thing that was discussed is about changing the operation of this meeting. Had a lot of public comment and a lot of discussion. And as I said earlier, it should have been tabled and discussed next meeting and addressed, give people a chance to digest it. But I didn't see it anywhere on my agenda for tonight's meeting. Secondly, the RFP, which is a request for proposal. If there was any investors involved in giving input to that, I would suggest that they be exempt for any offers on that RFP, because an RFP is strictly should come from what we as Brigantine would like to see, and if any investor is interested, they would respond to that RFP. If we cater that to any investor's interest, it now becomes a listing for a lease. So if you're putting out a listing for a lease, then say that that's what it is, and it's not an RFP. Otherwise, as I said, if an investor has any input as to how that should be worded, then they should exempt themselves from making any offer to participate in that lease. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Okay, any other public comment? Yes, Paul.
Paul Vanderine, 311 Dorchester Drive, Egg Harbor Township. First of all, I'd like to express my disappointment in council. I think you're going to be known in 2014 as the only beach without access of ice cream for the patrons. I think it's very disappointing, and you had a lot of options. Okay, I volunteered my services. I attended the beach committee meeting. This should have been done, like the mayor said, in the wintertime. Where you received or you obtained the information that Brigantine Beach is worth $70,000, it's unbelievable. I mean, I have the numbers. No one from council or the city manager even asked me what I felt the beach was worth. Okay. Now, again, I would be biased, but you'd at least be in the ballpark. Okay. You're way over zealous as far as what you could get. The auction process is what it is. You put a minimum bid in, and I requested a $25,000 minimum bid. Okay. And then the auction process would continue, okay? As you can see, not too many people are interested in Brigantine Beach, okay? There really is that much interest. If there were, you'd have people knocking down your doors at the numbers, okay? But I am willing to present the city money for this year, okay? But you have to give me the ordinances in place. Okay, all you have to do is rebid it, okay? Like I said, we're only looking at 1 month. Take that into account. My proposal, like we did in 2012, did a $5,000 minimum bid, okay? And then if people want to come to the table, they bring it up to 10,000, so be it. But you'll have ice cream on the beach in August, okay? I can present that to you, okay? I have the infrastructure here. to do it, to make it happen. Most of the people who worked last year would be able to do it this year. I have to check on some people. Jim Verrasso, the veteran, he's ready to go right now, okay? If that's amenable to you, okay, I'm asking you to, you know, I don't know if you have to do a resolution or anything of that nature. However, just renew the bid, okay? If that doesn't work, okay, the veteran situation, there's a practice in place, okay? The state gives the veteran the right to vend their wares anywhere in the state. The city can regulate that. Now, I know there's not an ordinance, okay, to that effect, but you have the trucks right now. You're regulating the veterans on the trucks right now. How much of a stretch is that they use carts, okay? All right, and again, I want to give these options to you. I realize this is probably not going to be a moneymaker for me this year, but you're going to have ice cream on the beach, okay? And you know, you serve the public. I heard back here there were a lot of unhappy people with the way council conducted themselves tonight. And again, I'm embarrassed also. I'm embarrassed for you. Okay, you're a governmental entity, and your public's not happy. This is just something else. You're not allowing something as simple as ice cream to be sold on the beach. Okay, this is something that's been around in South Jersey for years and years. I've been doing this since 1980. Okay, I've done this in many communities up and down New Jersey, okay? Brigantine is a new entity for me, all right? I came to your meetings. I provided information when it was requested, okay? I'm a team player, okay? All I'm asking you to do is, you know, take some consideration of what I've said, and maybe you can get ice cream back on Brigantine Beach. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Can I ask him a question?
I want to make one statement. This process is supposed to be a bid, and I've said this before, I'm not comfortable with the participation by a potential bidder and the continuing conversation about what it's worth and then coming up with a minimum based on that conversation. It really taints the bidding process as far as I'm concerned. So that is as much a factor in my mind why there's not ice cream on the beach. It's not a fair and open process once you get bidders involved talking about what should be in the bid, what the price should be. As far as I'm concerned, it's over. You can't, I don't know how you do it legally and ethically at this point. There's, the bid has been completely, it's tainted this year that we can't do a thing with it. And that's, I think, the position that we're in.
I want to be clear. You're talking about an ethical or other taint that would preclude us from going back and revisiting the issue for another bid or another auction this year.
Yes.
Not the initial steps we took and the initial price we put.
No, I'm talking about where we are right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how you get back to what we need to have done at this point when you have such a small bidding pool that has been so actively involved talking about the price. You know, it's not a bid anymore.
The only thing I was wondering, why didn't you bid when it was $40,000? I'm just saying,
This is against the rules.
it's
Yeah,
mind-boggling. You
Lisa,
could
can't
have had the
a
beach.
You can't ask him a question, actually.
All right, well,
Yeah, it's
don't
against the
answer it.
rules.
Had you bid on it, then you would have had the whole beach by now, for the whole summer. So, I mean, it was there, it was
I
offered.
think his answer is going to be, it wasn't worth $40,000 still.
For the whole beach?
Or it would've
Okay, is
been-
there any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close the public portion, and I hope we don't need an executive session. Are there any council comments?
Yes. I have two things I want to mention. First is that there are storm clouds gathering over Brigantine, as we learned and we've known, because of the actual and projected casino closings. What I'd like to do is ask everyone to start to think now of contributing to the True Spirit Coalition Fund, especially to help with the food pantry, because there's going to be a big need, we can predict that already, for the food pantry. And it's better to give cash to the food pantry than to go out and buy some food and bring it. And the reason is, for what we pay for something, even if we go to Sam's, say we pay $15 for a case of chili, for that same $15, they can get $45 worth of food. So if you give cash, it triples or triple or even to 5 times the amount of food that the food pantry can get for the cash over bringing in actual food items to the pantry. So I'd ask everybody in the city to start to think about that, and I would even suggest that people think about pledging a set amount every month, because then the pantry will be able to kind of rely on that income. The second thing I'd like to talk about is on July 26th, we have the Brigantine Municipal Alliance putting on the Hooked on Fishing, Not on Drugs. It's for kids from 5 to 15. It starts at 8 a.m. People start to line up, if you want to believe it, at 2 a.m. But it'll go from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. There'll be prizes and goodies for the kids and food. So come on out and have a good time and do something that's family-oriented and gets the message across towards drug awareness. Thank you.
And Lisa, I'll defer this to you if you want. I just want to remind people about the farmers market, and speaking just as a consumer and not a person who's been involved in working it, and those people work hard. Tremendous variety of goods down there. It's been packed. We've been blessed with great weather the first 3 Saturdays. They're killing it down there. And if you haven't been there, you really should, stop by it this Saturday and coming Saturdays till August 16th, I think.
We charge them $70,000. One thing I would hope all council will reconsider this stupid ordinance we passed tonight that we can't speak to the public and the public can't speak to us. It's the most ridiculous thing I ever seen in my whole life. And quite frankly, Fred, if we don't rescind this, you might as well get the police officer over there to take me to jail, because if somebody asks me a question, I'm answering it. Plain and simple.
Anyone else? Frank, you have anything?
No.
Do want to once again reiterate what Assemblyman Brown was here talking about with the changes that are right now proposed in Atlantic City, and the changes, the possible closing of the casino properties. I have to tell you that the position I've heard taken by our county executive as well as Assemblyman Brown, and I'm sure the entire legislative team, is that we need to do whatever we can to make sure that those casinos, if there is a way to keep them open, that they will stay open and these jobs will be retained. So there is not a sense of giving up at this point. It's a sense of fighting for what needs to remain in Atlantic City, and part of that is going to be the 5-year plan that was put in place to help with the tourism district in Atlantic City, to see that through to the end, but also looking at the number of casino licenses that one license holder can have in the future. So there's legislation pending. I will get the information out to the rest of the council that just got here this afternoon, and there is a resolution for us to consider at our next meeting. In the interim, I will be working with the legislative team as well as the county executive and chairman of the Freeholder Board, Formica, and the rest of the Atlantic County mayors to see what we can do to keep this issue in the forefront and to keep the pressure up to try and save those jobs in Atlantic City. I said earlier, it will impact, specifically, it's about 193 individuals in Brigantine who are in the balance right now of possibly losing their job if those 3 casinos close in Atlantic City. So that's a lot of families that could be impacted, and I think it's something that we need to put whatever support we can behind those who are trying to keep those jobs in Atlantic City for the future. And the other thing I want to mention is the farmers market has been tremendous. I want to congratulate all the people who have been involved in that.
Thank
you. It was certainly this very successful from day one, and it seems to be consistently meeting, I guess, exceeding the expectations of anyone who thought it was going to operate. So it's a great job, and I know Lisa's been involved with the green team, so congratulations to you and the green team for putting that on. Also, I want to mention, the Central Business District, we had ribbon cutting at a Yanni's Cafe this weekend, and council members were there. It's a great operation that's come to Brigantine, but it also, I think, is reflective of the types of businesses that we can draw to our downtown. And we're hoping that as we continue to apply for the grants for streetscaping in the downtown area, the Central Business District, that we're going to be successful at one of these attempts. And I think once we get that in place, looking at the success of the businesses that are there, a lot of really good businesses that have been there for a long period of time, but if we can get that streetscaping grant in place and some of those improvements in that area, it can only get better. So I think things are very positive in that regard, and it's been a great summer from all accounts that I've heard, from the population of number of visitors on the beach, number of people here in town, and the impact that the business owners are seeing as well. So, it's a great job by everyone who's involved in those service industries, and hopefully we can do some things to enhance their operations in the future. So I know we're about halfway through, so keep up the good work.
I'll make a motion.
You will?
Yeah.
Okay. Motion to adjourn?
Yes.
We have a second?
Second.
Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Once again, I want to thank all of you who came this evening, and thank you for tuning into your council at work at home.